today's episode of Luv Subbin, we're going to show you what spare parts we carry in our spare part bin for our Airstream specifically. So if you think about it, every time you tow, you're going to be putting your Airstream through about a Richter scale 8 earthquake.
Yes.
And over the 17 years we've been towing, we have broken just about everything, I think.
I think we've had everything that could possibly happen to an Airstream happen to us.
So we've towed it over 64,243.3 miles in the 17 years, and we've learned quite a bit over those years. And this week we're going to show you what we keep for our spare parts. So we release videos every Tuesday. Click the little red button down below to subscribe, and let's get right into it. Okay, my camera person is behind the camera, and we're going to go through some of the spare parts that we keep in our spare parts bin. So when we look at our spare parts, we kind of break it up into two categories. The first of which are the mission critical items, and this is usually related to water, electric, and sewer. We also then have some other spare parts that we keep for comfort or that we've broken in the past, and we'll go through some of those later on. But let's go ahead and start with the mission critical items. First and foremost, I think everybody should have a spare water pump in their Airstream. At some point, the water pump will fail, and unless you're hooked up to city water, if you're out in the middle of a desert somewhere and the water pump fails, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So what I did is a few years ago, I bought a new water pump, and I actually put the new one into the Airstream and took the old one out. This one still functions, but should that new one fail at any point in time, I'll be able to install this one relatively quickly. It's got the quick disconnect electrical fittings, and we'll be good to go with water. The other thing that I think is super critical with regards to water is your plastic water filter. And this thing here screws into the water pump. And as I said before, every time you tow your trailer, you're subjecting it to a massive earthquake, and this thing could actually crack. And once this thing cracks, air goes into the pump system, and your water pump will not effectively pump water through your pipes. And we have had this thing fail before. And in fact, I was at the factory at Jackson Center, and I couldn't get the thing to work. It happened at that time, and the factory guy came out, and he actually found out that it was cracked. So definitely, this is important. Also with water, we keep a spare plug for our low drain point, and we keep a couple actually spare plugs for our water heater. Moving on to the sewer side of things, we have a spare valve for our water or our gray and black water dump system. And for those of you that are with classic Airstreams who are like, that's not going to work, in ours it will. We have the Volterra valve system, so we keep that just in case, because if that were to fail, that could be a real mess.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. I wouldn't want that to fail. I also just keep the spare cap for the sewer connection. I have converted ours with a hose connection on our cap, and I'll take a picture of that so that you can see, and that allows us to hook up our Blue Boy external gray water tank with a hose. Okay, and moving on to the electric side of things. The first thing that we do, I'm sure almost everybody does this, but we have all of our fuses for the Airstream organized into these envelopes, and they're the ATC, the ATM, the barrel fuses, but we have at least one or more fuses for everything that we have in the Airstream. We've converted our interior lights to LED lighting, so hopefully we won't be replacing a whole lot of bulbs, but I do have spare LED bulbs. I also maintain all of the exterior running light bulbs, and ours are still incandescent, you can see. We don't have the LED lights like the new ones do, but I think this is an important safety issue. And before we tow anywhere, we have our checklist, and we do a running light check to make sure all of our running lights are operating. So if that were to fail, we would have our bulbs that we could replace, and I think that's a big safety issue, especially during periods of inclement weather. We don't tow a whole lot in the dark, so we've never actually had to replace an exterior light, but we check every single time anyway. We also maintain a complete set of marine hardware connectors, butt splicing, all different types of electrical connections. Just for purposes, we've got some wire here, but I've got a couple different gauge wires. We have a breakaway switch, a spare breakaway switch. And really, I don't think I would ever have to replace the breakaway switch on the fly. This is more in case some joker comes by and pulls my pin out of the breakaway switch thinking he or she is funny and runs off with it. I would be able to replace the pin with the switch and go ahead and be able to tow the Airstream as opposed to having the brakes lock. Okay, so that kind of does it for the mission critical items. We're going to move on to some of the things that are just nice to have or that we have absolutely broken many times in the past. So whenever we take something apart or replace something, we try and cannibalize the parts as much as possible. This is a spare motor and gearing set for our Fantastic fans, so if ever that were to fail. As well as the jack, power jack for the front. I recently, or a couple years ago, had to replace that power jack, so I took all the switches, screws, everything off of that I could put into this bag. We also maintain 3 bins that are labeled cabinet hardware, miscellaneous hardware, and window hardware. And these are pretty important for just quality of life kind of things. So in our cabinet hardware, we maintain our hinge that opens and closes a lot of our hinges or a lot of our like cabinet doors. So these things, again, can break in your earthquake that you're subjecting your Airstream to. And these things here tend to break a lot. These are a lot of our smaller doors. This piece goes into this piece to close the door, and this piece never breaks. So we've got like 10 of these because of course they're sold in pairs. But this piece here tends to break a lot. This top piece cracks open, and then this latch doesn't work, and the door flops back and forth when you're driving. So yeah, you can use duct tape, but this is the more permanent solution to that. Of course, handle for the cabinetry. In our miscellaneous hardware, I maintain these little guys. These are the latch for the electric water heater and for the bumper sewer storage area. And this could be considered somewhat of a safety item, because if ever this were to fail, you would have a door just flop down on your water heater, and you can't really tow like that. So we maintain these. These little grommets here, these black grommets, are what the griddle of your stove cooktop goes into the stove. And sometimes these things, they just got a little flange on them, and sometimes they'll get pushed down into the stove, and you won't have this little cushioning effect. Your stove will rattle or it'll be on level. So we maintain a couple of these. We've broken refrigerator knobs before, so we have a few refrigerator knobs, as well as just some little things like L-shaped brackets. I think our entire closet came off once.
They were plastic brackets.
Yeah, they were little plastic brackets. I'll show a picture of them up here.
Insane.
We've replaced them with these metal ones, which are a lot sturdier. We also have a window box, and some of the parts that we keep here are these are the little plastic pieces in which our Venetian blinds connect up to, and these things often snap off and break. So
Keeps the blinds from swinging around.
Right, because if you don't have that, especially when towing, they'll be moving back and forth and could cause damage. And I also keep a whole bunch of these little guys, these little black plastic caps, and these are the caps that go over the screw on the exterior of the window that contains the latch for the window. And this thing really serves almost no purpose whatsoever except for aesthetics, but it does serve one very important purpose. And that is, someday in your towing career, you're going to come up with an Airstreamer, and he or she's going to comment that they're missing one of these little black plastic caps, and then you can just sit there and go, no problem. My spare parts bin contains those caps, and you can give them the cap. Not only will they appreciate it, but they'll think you're some kind of Airstreaming lunatic, which is kind of one of my objectives, is to be the guy prepared for everything. So those are our smaller bins. We also keep some stuff that is not really related to the Airstream, but we keep anyway, and for the house, but we take along when we tow. We have a 520-piece O-ring set.
Yeah, that's something you don't want to drop.
No. We probably only have 2 or 3 O-rings in the Airstream, but this is one of those things that if it fails, you're just in a world of hurt if you're in the middle of nowhere and trying to find the right size O-ring, and you have to go back and forth. This thing costs $14 on Amazon, and to me it's $14 well spent in that instance when my O-ring fails and I can replace it immediately. In a similar fashion, we keep a 141 piece, I think. Yeah, 141 piece set of washers, same reason. 410 piece self-tapping screw set, and a 520 piece set of bolts, small bolts and nuts. That about does it really. We do have filters for our air conditioner. I went to replace the filters a couple years ago, and I bought 2 of these because there's 2 filters, but there's actually 2 in the package. I should have looked a little bit closer to that, but that's, anyway, each year we clean our filter, and it just, over time, this little foam here tends to deteriorate. So make sure you clean your filter in your air conditioner, and if needed, replace it. So that kind of does it. We keep all of our materials in the books. We've organized them by towing parts, galley parts, interior, exterior, of all of the merchandise that all of the manuals, everything we've got here.
All the directions and
All
how
the
to use
directions, as well as the manual from our Airstream that came from the factory. I don't know if they still do this. I'd be interested if they still hand out manuals.
it. Probably not, because everything's on the internet these days.
And we do this simply because, obviously, you don't always have internet connectivity, as well as this also gives a really quick reference to drawings and things like that that's sometimes difficult to pull up.
Well, plus our Airstream is old, and sometimes you can't find the information on the older products.
Exactly. So, but it's still good to have and good to maintain in a good orderly fashion. So, other than that, that's kind of what we keep in our Airstream. I'd love to know what you keep in your spare parts cabinet. So if you want to leave a comment below, that'd be awesome. That way all of us can learn. Maybe I can add some stuff to my parts list that you would have, that you've broken in the past. Click below to subscribe. And we come out with videos every Tuesday, Airstream related content.
Or travel related.
Or travel sometimes. And we'll see you down the road. Keep that shiny side up, as they say.